Hi there, TikTokers. This is going to go out to the black women. You have to pick a side. You have to pick a struggle. Either you're dominating the world as you claim you are, or you're the victims of all of this discrimination, racism, misogyny, whatever you want to call it. But you can't be both at the same time. Pick one. Unlike this sister right here.
Due to our continued excellence in the face of constant, unadulterated racism, sexism, and colorism, in the past few months, over 300,000 black women have lost their jobs.
That should have been enough to stop right there. Excellence? If you're truly excellent, nobody's trying to get rid of you. If anything, they're trying to hold on to you because you're making them money. Because whatever it is that you're doing, if indeed you are excellent, then it makes you irreplaceable. Most highly educated women, you all keep telling us. But proceed.
Between May and August of 2025, approximately 300,000 black women have either left or were forced out of the workforce. This was by design. Pay attention, because this is a strategic move by the systemically racist society we live in.
It's one thing if you say these women were forced out of the workforce. But if they left, well, that's a choice. And if they left, they weren't fired. They left. They resigned. See, so now we don't even know the meaning of words, but okay, go on.
Once again, y'all still can't leave black folks alone. Jealousy is a pathetic way to live. And even though it is hard being young, gifted, and black, I'm still black and I'm still proud.
What the fuck does that have to do with maintaining a job? Unless you're in the musical industry, you being young, gifted, and black doesn't mean a goddamn thing. The fuck?
Anyway, unemployment for black women has surged to 6%. That's about double the rate. You hear me? Double the rate of white male or female workers. Is that equality?
Well, I suppose you'd have to ask those women who left the workforce as opposed to being fired, because it makes a difference. But continue.
Early in 2025, the situation was already dire. 226,000 jobs were lost for black women between February and March, and the sharpest drop since the early days of the pandemic back in 2020. Because you know we were the first to go, unless we were nurses or teachers. In April alone, we saw roughly 106,000 jobs lost, pushing unemployment from 5.1% to 6.1%.
That right there should tell you that maybe in terms of excellence, you might not be quite as excellent as you think you are. If these people can afford to just watch you walk away or straight up lay you off or fire you, apparently whatever it is that you're doing is not considered that essential.
And let's get one thing real straight. Black women, despite us having the highest educational attainment, that means we got the most degrees.
First off, if that were true, that somehow within this racist system, you managed to get the greatest number of degrees and the highest educational attainment, that's enough to shut the fuck up about. Because whether you realize it or not, if that were true, it would put a level of expectancy, a level of productivity, a level of competence squarely on your shoulders that you might not necessarily be ready for. But even so, who is telling you these lies? Make it make sense. You mean to tell us in this environment where you still complain about racial discrimination and not having access to certain funds, That somehow you're going to have greater academic accomplishment than your wealthier counterparts who can better afford to send their children, especially their daughters, to college and get said educational attainment. Whoo, ladies, you got to do better. But let's continue. And before I forget, you have the most degrees in what areas again? What bullshit disciplines that aren't necessarily seen as integral to society anyway? All those social work types of jobs, all the social sciences, the arts, shit that in a dwindling economy are seen as luxury occupations anyway. You know what? Never mind.
We face deep occupational segregation. Still, we are disproportionately represented in lower paying, undervalued sectors such as administration support, healthcare, education, and public service, even though we're the most educated people in the world. And
translation: the lion's share of you who have these wonderful degrees are basically working jobs that only require entry-level labor. And then you wonder why you're dispensable.
And don't forget, we still get paid 67 cents on the dollar, and everybody else gets the whole dollar, except for black men who get 76 for the same job. So make that make sense to me.
Well, for one, if fewer black men are even going to college and getting these degrees, then that means it's significantly harder to find a black man with said degrees. So yeah, he's going to get paid more. Supply, demand, goddamn.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for who? For a sector of the population and everybody else can just go have several seats? I ask you again, is that equality? On the job, it is assumed that we, black women, are less deserving, less competent, or should accept lower expectations and pay. This is the status quo that we live in right now.
But heaven forbid, you also factor in your uncooperative natures, your egocentrism on and off the job, how you're more prone to drama and disruptive tendencies on the job. See, one of the biggest factors, one of the biggest variables that you all continue to ignore is your behavior. And you act as if the world owes you something now. Out of all the people being discriminated against in this country, you all act as if you're the only ones. Even just now, you had a problem with black men making just what, a little bit more than you? But if you really acknowledge the racism that black men have undergone in this country, you would realize that we're discriminated against more than you. But heaven forbid that within that type of dynamic, we actually get something out of the deal. And you talk about poor representation. Ma'am, go have that seat that you were talking about.
That doesn't sound like equality to me. This country loves to try to sell to the world that it is a democracy. It is not. Right now, in this very moment, there's someone in the comment section saying something like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. And to that, I say this. Black people would gladly leave America and go back to Africa, as you always like to say. Just give us all the money that you owe our ancestors so that you could become a superpower. And give us all the music genres that we created. The blues, gospel, R&B, hip-hop, country, folk, and jazz. Not to mention our inventions like the red light, green light. Any takers there, huh? Or all the medical inventions that we came up with? Or you getting to the moon because of our math? Ringing any bells? And don't forget about all the slang terms that you misuse with all your non-black friends or in commercials, TV shows, and movies. We are the culture. And good luck enjoying sports, enjoying football, basketball, track, baseball, or tennis without us elevating each of these sports. Be real with yourself. The culture of America is the exploitation and monetization of black culture. Period. The end.
Wonderful. But what the fuck does any of that have to do with black female unemployment? See, this is why you're not taken seriously. You can't even stay on topic.
Where was I? Oh, yes. Now let's focus back on the catalyst of why all of this is happening to black women in the workforce. The right wing decided to focus on DEI following the election run of a black woman named Kamala Harris.
You all ignorantly kept calling that woman a black woman. Meanwhile, the only race she has ever publicly acknowledged is her East Indian heritage. In the same fashion, this woman has made a point to already say that she would never do anything to specifically help black people. But in the same breath, wrote legislation to benefit East Indians, Pacific Islanders, and Native Americans specifically. And that's the problem. You sisters have your priorities all fucked up. You get embroiled in identity politics, where just because somebody looks like you, you tell yourselves that that person acts like you, sympathizes with you. But then you're the same ones that will get up here and say that not all skin folk are kinfolk. And it must have really been a kick in the teeth to find out that a lot of that so-called DEI policy that you seem so heavily dependent upon was instrumental in giving jobs to white men and white women, huh? But now you're mad because the new administrator, Trump, picked up on it and took it away? Make that make sense.
Remember that? A wave of right-wing policy and rhetoric started to dismantle DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across federal agencies and private companies. These programs had provided critical pathways to employment and advancement for black women. You know why they needed to do this? To attempt to right the many wrongs against us to begin with in the workforce and give us equal opportunity under the law.
Or at the very least, that's the lie that was sold to you, which you bought wholeheartedly.
Federal workforce reductions hit hard. On who? They hit the hardest on black women, comprised of about 12% of the federal workers, but have seen a 33% drop in federal employment. The math ain't mathing, y'all. That's compared to 3.7% overall. Corporations like Meta, Amazon, Target, and Walmart have scaled back or eliminated DEI roles, citing conservative political and legal pressure to maintain what? White delusional supremacy. Their attempt to put black women in our so-called place will always backfire. You know why? Because we are the beginning, middle, and end, and this world won't spin without us.
And that's where you need to shut the fuck up. Because apparently, they're spinning quite well without your asses. They're literally bringing in immigrants from other countries to replace your dumbasses. You have allowed your egos to have been stroked so efficiently that you truly believe that you and you alone impact this country. That somehow if you just didn't exist, that this country would no longer exist. That is a lie. That is bullshit. Societies of people all over the world have existed for tens of thousands of years without necessarily including you. What makes you think for 1 second that if you were to go away, that you wouldn't be replaced, that you wouldn't be missed, that the world would simply go on? Sisters, you need to gird your loins and unfuck yourselves. Realize that you are not the women that you think that you are. That was propaganda that was used to hype you all up so that you would become the greatest consumers in this country, spending money on a bunch of bullshit, all because your egos were being stroked. But now they've made so much money, they don't necessarily need to stroke your egos anymore. There's so many other people in this country that now they can begin to cater to them in the same ways that they were catering to you, that they can start ego stroking them the same way that they were used to ego stroke you. They don't need you like that. Learn. Open your eyes and see. If you was truly so irreplaceable, why the fuck would they be getting rid of you? It wouldn't even be cost effective to get rid of you if they needed you that much. They don't need you.
That's why we will always find a way out of no way. I work for myself, and more black women will do the same. And best believe that this attack on black women will not be met with just defense. It will be met with an offensive stance as well. You want to take our jobs? Fine. We'll just go out and create new ones, better ones.
And with what resources? See, constantly we hear you all talk this bullshit, but typically when you talk about being entrepreneurs, only thing that you're doing is you're still buying the products of other companies, and you might repackage it, remix it, and start reselling the same shit that you bought from somebody else. Or you will provide a service, but you're still using these other people's technology. There's no black Silicon Valley. At some point, you have to acknowledge that many of the so-called businesses that you create are still either luxury businesses where you're providing some type of product that only a small demographic is going to use, is going to buy. Like primarily you will create products that you will sell into the black community, depending upon the same dollars that I guess you're not accounting for being generated in the same community. You're not selling to white folks. You're not selling to Asians. You're not selling to Hispanics. You are still limiting yourselves to that which can only be sold within the black community and the black community alone, which is why these so-called entrepreneurial efforts never really go that far, or they remain consistently limited. At some point, you have to acknowledge that we need this system more than you all may admit to. It just is what it is. But at least be honest about your place in it. At least be honest about what you truly contribute to it. Because the lion's share of you are not inventors. The lion's share of you are not innovators. Some of you are. But it's like you will take the accomplishments of the few, the minute, the exceptional, and then you will claim that as being part of who you are in the most general sense. The world is not seeing that. You're not demonstrating that. Maybe if you were, then you would see a different outcome.
Good luck coming for us. I love you, black man. I love you, black woman. Knowledge is power. Power to the people.
Black men love you too. I love you too, sister. But I love you enough to be honest with you. Being pro-black in itself is not enough to change this dynamic. No, what's necessary is truly using that knowledge that you're talking about and using it in a constructive way. Being honest about what is truly needed in all societies and then create a space in which black folks, black men, and black women are concentrating on what it is that society needs across the board, as opposed to these bullshit degrees, these bullshit jobs that are highly dispensable, where the workers, like yourselves, are highly replaceable. That's why I said at the very beginning, if you were truly bringing about the excellence that you claimed, then they couldn't bear to lose you. They would hold on to you with a death grip. But if they can easily just lay you off, fire you, or position you to where you're more inclined to leave, then they don't need you. Plain and simple.